Welcome, in front of me is a Realme 6 Pro, and today I'll go over unboxing along with an overview of the device. So starting off, this is the box that it comes in, nothing special, just a typical Realme box. Let's pop it open. There we go, as you can see, nothing on the top, a fairly flimsy box. And in here, paperwork, along with the case. So that's nice that they include one. And the same thing comes for the Realme 6S, I believe. There's also a case in there, and the phone all has similar box with content. Now in here, there's the phone. Let's pop it up, set it to the side. Just a piece of cardboard, no one really cares about that one. Then we get a charger. As you can see, I believe it's a 30-watt charger. Let's quickly check it. So yep, max 30 watts. I'm not sure if it's going to be visible. Second line from the bottom. Let me just try to actually get some light on here. Not sure how visible that is, but yeah, it's a 30-watt charger. Fairly similar, and well, not fairly similar. It looks exactly the same as the OnePlus's charger, just the different colors in here. So it's yellow while OnePlus has red. Then we have the cable, Type C, Type A, again yellow accents on it. And in here, you just got the SIM eject tool. And that's about it in here. So let's take out the phone out of the foil. Now, I have already set it up, so we don't have to go through the setup. And let's start off by popping it in the case. Okay, there we go. So that's how it looks like in the case. Now it does have fairly substantial lip on here. That's so when you drop it on the screen, it still protects it, so you can't really scratch it. It will use the bumpers, I would call them, to protect the screen. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of this. It just makes gesture navigation a little bit harder because it does, as you can see, you can catch your finger on here. Something that, for example, with my case that I have right here, I don't have any problem with, because it's basically flush with it, as you can see. Comparing it to this, as you can see, there's a fairly substantial amount of the casing in the way. Okay, now let's pop it out of this and just set it on the stand right here. So as you can see, that's the device. Now, when it comes down to its specs, it comes with a 6.6-inch display, 399 pixels per inch. This is just a typical displays for 2020 with a resolution of 1080p by 2400 and max 90 hertz refresh rate. So you do get that smoother refresh rate, which is, in my opinion, a great addition to this. And it's just a typical IPS display, so you're not going to be getting those super deep blacks. That's a little bit of a shame, but then the phone costs about a fifth of what, or maybe not fifth, but like a third of the price that normal flagship costs. So now I also should probably add, this isn't really a flagship, but it's nice that it does include certain parts of flagships in the current time, like the high refresh rate as an example. And then also has a 64 megapixel main shooter. So if I flip it around, it's going to be the one on the top. So that's a 64 shooter. Then you have a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and 2 megapixel wide. And I believe they're all kind of going down as well. And when you combine all this, it can shoot at 4K 30. So you're not going to be getting that super smooth frame rates of 60 frames on 4K. but you do have it at 1080p, and at 1080 you can shoot at 30, 60, and also at slow motion at 120 frames, and all that has a gyro electronic image stabilization, so it should also stabilize the footage a little bit better. And then if we flip it back over to the front, as you can probably already see, we have the two cameras right here. It's similar to the Samsung Galaxy, what is it, S20 I think, or S10s. Don't really remember which one was it, but they also had the dual camera at the front. And when it comes down to the cameras up there, it's a 12 megapixel wide and 8 megapixel ultra wide, and just a 1080p 30 frames per second footage that you can capture with it. Then moving on, the device itself has a couple variants in terms of storage. So I believe this is, let's see, the one in front of me is a 8GB 128, so it's the top spec of this. But you can also get it with 64GB storage and 6GB RAM, and also 128 has an option of 6 gigs and 8 gigs. So basically the 64 gig has only one RAM storage, the 128 has either 6 or 8. And also, apart from the built-in either 64 or 128, you can also expand it via the SD card, because you have space for that in here as well. So you could probably extend it over a terabyte, I believe, assuming it can handle a terabyte of a SD card. Just keep in mind that they're fairly expensive, so I'm just giving you an estimate that you could use it if you want to shell out money for something like that, but probably majority of us don't really need a terabyte of storage on the phone. And then, apart from the 6 or 8 gigabytes RAM, it has, both of the variants have a Snapdragon 720G and 4,300 milliamp hour battery. So with that battery, you also get a fairly decent charger. Like I said before, it's a 30-watt charger with their technology VOOC 4.0. So they claim that you can charge a device from 0 to 100% in 57 minutes. So that is probably the test environments. Probably the charging to 100 will be a little bit longer than they advertised, but I haven't checked it. I don't claim that they're wrong or not. I'm just kind of like assuming. So in theory, their 57-minute claim could be completely accurate, or it could be even faster than they claim. So yeah, apart from that, you have Android 10 on it, as you probably expected, and it comes with the REALME UI. So this is probably one of those things that you will either love it or hate it, and might break the purchase for you. It's a really decent device, honestly, for the price that it costs of like $270. I'm surprised how well this device runs, and also the features that it has. It has a decent camera. It has the 90 Hz refresh rate, which I'm kind of focusing on that because I really enjoyed the 90 Hz, or if it's possible even 120. It just makes everything look so much smoother. Smoothness that I'm not able to actually show on camera. It's only capturing at 60, so that's the max you will see. But if you have this phone in your hand and you set it up to 90 Hz refresh rate, then you'll most certainly see the difference. And for instance, just scrolling, when you go into the settings, you can really check that difference. So when you're moving up and down, it will have that real smoothness that you probably previously didn't see before. And you can even turn it off, switch between 90 and 60 to see the differences. And once you see it, it's kind of hard to unsee it. And apart from that, I don't really have much more to say. This device is really nice for the price that it costs. It has really decent features. It works really well. The Snapdragon is not the most powerful, but then you're not paying for a flagship here. It's more of a mid-range device, and it succeeds at the price that it costs. It's an outstanding device, I would have to say. And like I said, the only personally down draw for me would be the REALME UI. I'm not necessarily the fan of it. I would rather have a little bit more stock Android experience. But then I did encounter worse launchers or skins for Android than this. So if I have to choose between a worse one or this one, I think I would prefer this one in this case. And the only also downside of this that I would also like to see is a OLED or AMOLED display. Just personal preference, I really like to see those deep blacks, but if you're not the type of person who cares about this kind of display, then it doesn't really matter here. It's more of a color, how deep the blacks look and how bright it can get. That's about it. And like I said again, it's a mid-range device with a really respectable price for what you get. So I would like to see an AMOLED display, but I'm fine without it for this price. Then also another thing that I'll mention, the fingerprint sensor, it has one, although it's not under display, as we're probably already used to. I've been using my Huawei for a while, and it has under finger display here. It's actually on the power key right here, as you can see. So that's the fingerprint as well. Has no under display fingerprint sensor. And again, it's in a place that I don't think it really matters. It's not as annoying as it used to be with you having to press somewhere on the bottom after you press the power key. So here you press the power key and automatically reads your finger. So it's fairly nice in this regards, and I would say it's basically close enough to an under display fingerprint, at least in terms of usability. And then apart from the fingerprint sensor on the right side, on the left side we just have volume rockers and a SIM/SD tray. On the bottom we had something that I didn't expect actually. We have a headphone jack, so if you're still using wired headphones, you can still use them with this device, so thumbs up for that, especially on a mid-range device. Really like that they kept it around. Then you have the speaker grill, Type-C charging port, microphone, and on the top, for instance right here, we have another microphone for the loudspeaker, and then we have the grill for the speaker when you're picking up calls normally. And at the bottom, like we already seen, we have this design of like a lightning bolt almost. As you can see this in light. It looks really nice actually. And then just a quad camera setup, flash, and REALME branding. So the conclusion of this would be, if you're looking for a mid-range device that is really good, it has probably majority of the boxes checked for flagship specs, or specs, maybe features that a lot of flagships have. It might not check all of them, but for instance, personally, just the fact that it has 90 Hertz display, for me, it's good enough to recommend it. It has a fairly reliable fingerprint sensor on the side. Would like to see it under display, but on the side is decent as well. The double camera on the front, personally I'm not a fan of it, but we can test how it works actually, so you can get a good look at it. Let's see. So it does capture fairly well. It looks like it's a little bit sharpened, a little bit sharper than it should be in my opinion, but the camera looks really well, honestly, better than I expected. And also, let's flip it over and quickly capture a couple photos here to see also how it works, because I didn't do that before. So right now it's using macro lens, as you can see right over here. Let's see how so this is, wait, no, this is normal. Let's try that again, because it now captured normal. I also want to see the macro. More ultra macro. So you can see I can get really up in here. If I could only capture this, that would be nice. There we go. Okay, so let's also leave this. See what else we got. We got the 2x zoom. I'm gonna move it out of the frame so I can get a focus on this. What else we got? We got also 5x zoom. Probably would help if my hand wouldn't be shaking so much. Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to check out the night mode. It's daytime and it's fairly light in the room, so there's no way for me to test it out. Then we also have the 64 megapixel, which I'm not exactly sure if I was using it before or not. Can I quickly check? Oh, there was settings. So we can check quickly if it was using a 64 sensor. Doesn't look like it's in here. Frame 1x1 full 16. So it looks like the 64 is a standalone mode in here. So also let's test it out. Okay. Let's drop that out of the way and also look at the photos, how they came out. So here we have the 64. Now the 64 seems to be probably the worst one out of them all, I think, at the moment. The benefit is you can really zoom in here because the resolution of the photo is way higher than it normally would be. Oops. Then we have the 5x zoom. Now the 5x zoom actually did a fairly good job, I would say. It still kept a decent amount of details. Then, whoops, let me just go through the gallery app. So then this is the 2x zoom. So, also really decent photo. Then we got the macro lens, I believe. It's a little bit darker than it felt like when I was capturing it, especially the lighting that is in here. I would expect it to be a little bit more light up. For instance, like this area right here. If I set it up, it doesn't do really well with HDR, it looks like, because when I place this, you can probably see it already here on the camera. The area isn't as dark in this part of the figure as it is on here. Okay, so moving on, I believe this was the normal one, and this is fairly accurate to how it looks like. The reddish is a little bit more saturated than it is on here. Overall, the entire image is a little bit more saturated, but it's, in my opinion, close enough, and there is also a decent amount of detail in it, which is surprising for the price that you pay for the device. So, and this is something that also surprised me with the 6S device. The camera, the main shooter that you use normally for taking photos, it does a really good job in taking actually detailed photos, which majority of the devices that I have tried in this price range did struggle with this. Especially the red part, for instance, of this figure was completely blurred and you couldn't see any kind of detail in it. So here I have to say thumbs up for the camera. And yeah, so that was the last thing that I, well, in a way forgot to add there. So finishing up the conclusion of this, the device is really worth the money if you're planning to buy a budget device, or well, not budget, but like mid-range device. Thumbs up, this is the device to get if you also don't mind the REALME UI. But apart from that, it works well. Not having encountered any stutters with it, and overall it's been a pleasant experience with this device. So, finishing up the overview, if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.